didn't originally plan on watching The Little Mermaid remake Disney release this year, but I saw it came out on Disney Plus, and I thought it'd be fun to keep this underwater theme going we had from last week. So here we are. I didn't hear a ton of good things about The Little Mermaid, which led me to have very low expectations going into this film. But I tried to have a very open mind. Like, yes, I know I'm going to compare it to the original. That's a given. But trying to judge it on its own merits and what I personally think about the film. But after watching it, I gotta say, I understand the criticism, and yeah, it's not great. I don't think it did what a remake is supposed to do, which is to improve upon the original, and this just doesn't do that. Usually, this would be the point where I would issue a spoiler warning, but this film follows the exact same plot as 1989 original film. So no spoilers here, but if for some reason you haven't seen The Little Mermaid, it pretty much goes like this. Ariel is a mermaid who is the daughter of the Sea King, Trident, and she has a huge obsession with humans. One day she stumbles upon Prince Eric and a ship's party when all of a sudden a storm emerges, causing the ship to shipwreck and forcing Ariel to have to step in and save Eric. After this, Ariel falls in love with the prince and wants to be human. So she's like, I want feet now. And Trident's like, no, you can't have feet. You can't be human. Humans are bad. And Ariel's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And Ariel's so disappointed she can't have feet until a little sea witch named Ursula hears about this. And she goes, yo, Ariel, I can get you feet, but you'll only have them for 3 days. And if you can't get the prince to fall in love with you and give you true love's kiss, then you'll lose your feet. If you can do that, you'll have your feet forever. But if you don't, you lose them and you'll be mine forever. Oh, and by the way, you have to do all of this without your voice. Do we have a deal or no deal? Ariel's like, deal. So Ariel gets her feet and is off to try to fall in love with the prince, and it's going pretty well for her. So much so that Ursula sees it and goes, this plan's not working too well. And she goes full Thanos and says,
fine. I'll do it myself.
So she gets feet and goes to the surface and puts a little spell on Prince Eric, tricking him into falling in love with her instead of Ariel. This breaks Ariel's heart. She thought she'd won Prince Eric over, but no, he went off with some other girl. Until Scuttle, a seagull and one of Ariel's friends, flies by the window of the Sea Witch and finds out that this woman is the Sea Witch, is Ursula. So he goes, Ariel, the Sea Witch is behind all of this. And so she flips out and she goes, we gotta stop him. And so on their attempt to stop him, she ends up getting her voice back, but is too late in kissing Prince Eric and turns back into a mermaid and is now Ursula's. Until Trident finds out and tries to free Ariel. And Ursula's just like, buddy, we got a contract. We got a contract. You can't break that. Ursula's like, but I can make a trade. If you give me your trident and you turn yourself in, then I'll let her go. Trident is a parent, so he obviously does this. So Ursula is now queen of the ocean. Then Ursula's eels kill King Trident. But then Eric and Ariel kill Ursula's eels, and that's a big no-no. So in response to these deaths, Ursula turns herself into Godzilla and starts making a whirlpool for some reason in the ocean, which causes a bunch of shipwrecked ships to come to the surface, where traditionally Eric takes hold of one of these ships and steers it right into the chest of Ursula, defeating her, and Eric and Ariel live happily ever after. That's The Little Mermaid. That's the classic tale. Now, I'm not going to go into plot point criticisms because, again, both films are pretty much the exact same story. There's a couple changes in the remake, and we will get to those in a second. But I think the biggest problem with the remake is just it's way too long. The original Little Mermaid clocked in at just under an hour and a half, while the remake is about 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Almost an hour longer than the original. And you may be like, oh, so they added a ton of new things and a ton of new elements to the story to change it and to maybe improve on a couple things. Nope. I thought so too. but they don't. It's just mostly the same thing as the original movie, just all the scenes are way longer and it's needlessly long. Like, none of the things that they add in this movie are really needed or really expand the story. To make my final point about how long this film is, in the original movie, Ariel finally meets Ursula in about the 38th to 39th minute. However, in the live action remake, Ariel doesn't meet Ursula till about the 50th minute. So that's about 20 minutes of extra scenes and extra content that we just don't need in the movie. And I think another problem is one a lot of people have brought up that I agree with, and it's that this film just doesn't look good. Really, the underwater scenes don't look that great. They look really unnatural, and you can tell that they're just actors in mocap suits behind green and blue screens. I'm going to be honest, I don't think I would have thought this film looked bad if Avatar Way of Water didn't come out last year. That may have changed some things, but that film is just so beautiful underwater and uses so many practical shooting methods that, like, it makes this look really bad. And it's just not as colorful and vibrant and lively and beautiful, magical as the original. And I think that brings me to another point. Although this film can remake the story, it just cannot recreate and remake the magic of the first film. And I think that's most evident in the songs. I think the performances vocally in and of themselves are pretty good. The magic in, like, the set pieces and what happens during those songs is not there. And I think the best example of that is during Under the Sea. Under the Sea in the original is this huge event with a ton of different fish and animals coming together and making music to convince Ariel that life's better where it's wetter. And you know, it's so funny seeing fish play instruments and play the clams like drums and do all this goofy stuff. And the song even talks about that, mentions the animals playing the instruments. And the remake doesn't do that. It doesn't embrace the goofiness that was that song, but it mentions it. It still has those same lyrics, so it still talks about fishes playing instruments and all this stuff, but it doesn't show any of that. I think this pursuit of being super realistic plays to the film's detriment in scenes like these, because it's little details and little goofy things like fish playing instruments that really make you fall in love with the world. And that's just not present in the remake. And besides just the general environment, the animals just didn't look good in this film either. Photorealistic animals are just not the move. Realistic and talking animals are not things that mix. It doesn't make sense. But Disney keeps trying to do it. I thought that was the one lesson they learned with The Lion King. Besides that, remakes make a buttload of money. Is that although it is really cool to sometimes have photorealistic animals and to try to be realistic, there is a line between being realistic in character designs and the actual practical application of that in the film with them singing songs. Like in the original, you have Sebastian and Flounder and Scuttle with all these different emotions that you can very clearly see in their facial expressions, in the way that their mouths moved and their eyes lit up, and that just isn't present here due to the pursuit of being realistic, of having photorealistic animals and sea creatures. And it doesn't work. And on top of all of that, it's just not great to look at. Like, Flounder is not fun to look at. Another thing that's lost here, besides kind of the magic, is really the humor. There's not many laugh out loud parts in the remake. I watched the original for this video, and let me tell you, man, there are some pretty funny moments in the original film. I think I laughed more in the first 10 minutes of the original film than I did in the whole 2.5 hours of the remake. And again, I think that brings back to the photorealistic animals, like the facial expressions and the way the animators are able to use the characters and the way that they move and the way that they react to things to a comedic effect. They're not able to do that with the photorealistic animals. So I think that plays a part in the removal of humor. But also characters like Scuttle in the original, really funny. Here, it's Aquafina. I don't know why the filmmakers thought that it was a good idea to replace the humor with Scuttlebutt.
When I was like, wham, chicka, wham, wham, chicka, wham.
I think one of the best parts of this film was Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. She's still that villainous, crafty character that just does evil things because she really enjoys doing evil things. I'd say the only thing I was let down by with her character, which has nothing to do with her or her acting, or was her use in the finale. It felt a lot more anticlimactic here. And I think part of that had to do with Ariel being the one to kill Ursula and not Eric.
You serious?
Which doesn't make much sense at all. One, just in the fact that Ariel has no experience steering ships or doing any of that. And the fact that she's able to maneuver an old ship that has been at the bottom of the ocean for who knows how long and is able to ram it through Ursula makes no sense. And on top of that, it ruins the significance of Trident finally able to see humans in a better light. It's because of what Eric does against Ursula that changes his mind. And in the remake, he doesn't do anything. It ruins the significance of the finale. Like, that was the whole reason Trident trusted Eric, trusted humans, was because of Eric's actions in the finale. Look, I will say this. The Little Mermaid remake was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. But that doesn't mean it was great. It fails to recreate the magic and the spectacle that was the original version. And to be honest, if you're wanting to watch this story, I think it's best if you just stick to the original. But that's about it from me. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys thought of the Little Mermaid remake. But as always, thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching. I really do appreciate it. And I love you guys, and I hope to see you next time. But until then, peace out, bro skillets.